Hi, my name is Madeline Love. I'm going to do my presentation 2 on the history of banned books. I'm going to talk about the history of banned books worldwide, the history of banned books in America, and a list of current banned books in America. I'm going to talk about the censorship of these items and how that relates to the education system and how that can hurt the education system. So first up is history worldwide. The first known literature that was banned was around 259 to 210 BC, when the Chinese emperor at the time is said to have buried alive 460 scholars to control the writing of history in his time. This man burned all the books in his kingdom in 212 BC because he thought that he could rewrite history beginning with him. He thought that he could just pretend that if he burned all of the books in his kingdom, then everyone would think that the world just started with him, the Emperor of China. This is our first example of how education can be harmed by censorship of literature. This man literally thought that he could rewrite history by burning some books. Next, we're moving on to Rome. In 35 AD, the Roman emperor banned the reading of the Odyssey by Homer, which was written more than 300 years before. He thought that the epic poem was dangerous for the Roman people because it expressed Greek ideas of freedom. So moving on to American history, in the year 1873, Congress passed the Comstock Law. This law condemned trade of obscene literature. This law was overturned later in history because defining obscene is a little difficult. Some people would say that some things are obscene just because they disagree with certain things or they don't think that it should be released, not that it is necessarily actually obscene. The law targeted sexual content, which makes sense, except that it included medical journals. Things like a journal showing a skeleton or muscle systems, stuff like that, which obviously infringes upon education as well, because if you can't distribute the content, then how in the world are people supposed to learn it? So there are definitely popular banned books, which started in the early 1900s when there were plenty of authors who pushed back against this idea that their literature would be censored. Some of our favorite authors that we all had to read in high school, like Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Theodore Dreiser. Ernest Hemingway's 19 and 29, A Farewell to Arms, was a World War I novel that was very detailed, and a lot of people did not like the amount of detail, and it was very controversial at the time, and so therefore it was banned in America for a while. Theodore Dreiser's book, Sister Carrie, which came out in 1900, was banned a few years later simply for immorality. Wasn't really defined what immorality was to those people, but they probably just didn't like what it had to say. So next is Banned Book Week. This is pretty cool. I didn't know this was a thing, but it was started in 1982 because books were reaching an all-time high ban rate in the 1970s, and so the purpose of Banned Book Week is to bring awareness and remove restrictions. So these people compile a list of the top 10 books that were banned that year, and they've been doing that since 1982. So there's lots of lists that you can go read up on about these books and why they were banned. It also wants to push acceptance of diversity. So lots of these books are banned because they have content that people don't agree with, or just that people aren't like them. So a big one that's banned, it's been on the top 10 list for Banned Book Week for a long time now, Harry Potter, which is banned for witchcraft and wizardry, just because religious people think that their children shouldn't read a fiction book about magic. So this proves that books are still challenged and censored today, with classics, well, classic for me, I guess, such as Harry Potter, and some people hope that new literature that comes out expressing new ideas never gets read. So the most recent list that they came out with was 2019's list. So I'm going to talk about the books that were banned in 2019. This list goes in order for the most censorship or banned requests that these books got. So number 1 is George by Alex Gino, which was challenged, banned, restricted, and hidden to avoid controversy. It has LGBTQ characters and themes. It has a trans character. People said that this book should be censored or banned because it should not be in schools and libraries, because people should not put books in a child's hand that require discussion. This causes big issues for education, obviously, because children are being censored and told what they can and can't read just because of people's opinions, basically. This book also, though, did have sexual references, and it conflicted with religious viewpoints and traditional family structure. So people did not like that one. Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out by Susan Cucklin was also banned for LGBTQ themes, obviously. People said that it had an effect on young people, and they did not like that. And then there's A Day in the Life of Marlon Bundo by Jill Twiss and illustrated by E.G. Keller. So that one is a graphic novel. It also has LGBTQ themes. That one, people wanted it banned because it was more political overall. People said specifically that it was designed to pollute morals. So the next one is Sex is a Funny Word by Corey Silverberg and illustrated by Fiona Smith. Another graphic novel here. Actually, all three on this page are graphic novels, which lots of graphic novels tend to get high ban rates because not only is the book discussing topics such as LGBTQ characters and communities, but it actually shows it, and graphic novels are easier for the youth to understand and pick up on themes from. So Sex is a Funny Word received specific bans or censorship for LGBTQ. Gender identities was a big topic in that one. Sex education was discussed, as well as people wanted to ban it just because the title and illustrations were inappropriate. So Prince and Knight, these both next two ones are LGBTQ. People said specifically that this one had gay marriage in it, and it was a deliberate attempt to indoctrinate young children. Next is I Am Jazz by Jessica Herthel and Jazz Jennings, which was illustrated by Sheila McNichols. This one is banned simply for having a transgender character. There were no other complaints. So here's a few more. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. That one was actually turned into a TV series, so you've probably heard about that one and the controversy surrounding whether or not it should be produced, continued to be sold as a novel. People said that it had profanity and specifically vulgarity and sexual overtones, which sounds like I know exactly why they made it a TV show. So the next one is Drama, written and illustrated by Raina Telgemeier. It has LGBTQ content, and it supposedly goes against family values. And the last one is Tango Makes Three by Peter Parnell and Justin Richardson, and illustrated by Henry Cole, and that one also just has LGBTQ characters. So, in conclusion, censorship is not new. We've been seeing it since the Roman and Chinese empires, and banned books can hide important information from education systems, and many are banned just for people's opinions. And that is all I have on banned books today.